promises that you make to other people, and then there are those promises that you help other people keep, and this is a story about that. In the spring of 1998, I got a chance to study abroad for a semester in London, and as part of that, I didn't just take classes, I also had an internship, and they set me up with an internship in the communications office at the Conservative Party headquarters in London. I didn't have a choice. It had nothing to do with my personal politics. It's just where they had connections. But I did realize pretty early on that the more I dressed like Barbara Bush, the more I fit in there. So in all of this, just imagine me in like navy blue jumpers and white tights and flats and stuff, because that's the way I looked every day. And the guy that we worked for at the time, his name was William Hague, and he's the leader of the party at the time. He never got to be prime minister, so you probably don't know who he was. But if you imagine Niles from Frasier, he looked just like him. And his chief of staff at the time was a guy named Sebastian Coe. And Sebastian Coe had been a politician, but he was more famous because he'd won gold medals in the men's 1500 in the 1980 and 1984 Olympics. Which England doesn't win a ton of gold medals, so this was a big deal. People would get like a little starstruck around him. So one day I was doing my usual chores, like making copies, writing form letters, and after a suitable amount of training, I was allowed to make tea. And it took weeks, you guys, weeks. And I got a call, and they were like, Sebastian Coe wants to see you. So I was like, okay. So I came downstairs, and he was like, William Hague and I just got back from Australia, and I promised my son that when I went to Australia, I would buy him a globe, but I'm here, and I don't have a globe for him. Here is a stack of Australian dollars. Can you go buy my son a globe? And I was like, I'm a gopher, so I'm like, yeah, sure, I can do that. So then I run upstairs, and I'm like, guys, where the hell do I get a globe at 4:30 on a Wednesday? And so the people upstairs are like, just go out the door, go down the street there, there's a bank, and then if you keep going down that street, there's a map shop. And I was like, okay. So I go out the back. It's like, I'm really worried about the bank closing. And I go to the back, and I'm like, what street? Like London, central London, as they like to say, is very higgledy-piggledy. I'm like, I'll just pick this street. This seems like the main street to go down. So I pick a street, and I go down the street, and sure enough, there's a bank. But that's not surprising, because there's banks everywhere. But I run in, and I'm like, here's a stack of unknown amount of Australian dollars. Will you give me an unknown amount of British pounds for it? And they were like, sure. So they give me more pounds than I thought it would be. And then I'm like, okay, now I have to find the map shop. And so I go out, and I take a right, and I like go a couple blocks down, and there's a map shop. Like, it's like Hogwarts or something. Like, the thing you want appears. It's like, of course there's a map shop in the middle of England that's open. So it's closing in like 10 minutes, and I run in, and I'm like, do you have globes, or is this just maps? And they're like, globes are in the basement. And I'm like, okay. So I go down there, and then I'm like, I don't know what kind of globe he wants. Like, his son was like 8 or 9, and I think he thought that like Australia would be at the top in a globe bought in Australia, but they didn't have any of those. So I did spend the extra money to get a globe that like had a light in the middle, because we had one of those when I was a kid, and I really liked the glow of the lit globe. So I was like, I'm spending your extra money, Seb, and I'm getting him a nice globe. So I got him a nice globe right as they're closing, and I'm like running back to the office. And on the way, I thought, well, it'd be really cool if they gave me a tip. But I get back, and he's like, thank you very much. And he just wanders off. So he didn't tell me to keep the change or anything. He just took off with the globe. So then years later, 2012 Olympics comes around. And Sebastian Coe is like the head of the Olympic committee. And I keep seeing him like on press conferences. And he made a speech during the opening ceremonies. And all I could think was, I saved that guy's ass with his kid by buying him a globe. I know you're like world famous Olympian, but I saved your ass. So I just keep, like, whenever I see him on TV now, I think, like, I'm glad I could help him make his maybe not completely authentic Australian globe promise to his son. And I also think that that's probably the closest I'll ever get to being in the Olympics.